60% of our participants here actually know have heard of the CRA. And let's go to see now how well we know this CRA. So the next question is, which do you believe is the CRA scope? What is it trying to do? So let's see what the answers are. And don't be afraid, there is a bird-related answer also. So great, I see. I still see people participating also with humor. That's very good. It's very important in a webinar. Okay, so of course, if we are going to go deep into the CRA, we have to understand what it is related to. We have to know who it affects and who it doesn't, and then that's where the actual problems come in. So a lot of people know and hear about a lot of European regulations. There are a lot of these, and we usually hear a lot of acronyms like the CRA or the CSA or the Cyber Solidarity Act. It is not an acronym, but we hear that also, the NIS one and the NIS 2, and so we hear a lot of acronyms, but we need to know more than that. We need to understand what they mean, what is their objective, and how that affects us, because not everything affects every type of organization. So we have half of you participating in this quiz, and most of you think that the CRA defines and mandates horizontal cybersecurity requirements for products with digital elements. So that's very, very good. And it's also the correct answer. That is actually not enough, because when we describe now the content and the scope of the CRA, we start also working and dealing with words that we are not fully, that have not been defined before, like what is a product with digital elements. Before I go into the definition of what is a product with digital elements, let's start with the very basics. The CRA is an acronym for the Regulation 2847 of 2022, that is on the horizontal cybersecurity requirements for products with digital elements. It shall apply on the 11th of December of 2027. It looks like it's a long way away, but if you wait and stick to the end of the presentation, you see that it is not, first of all, far away. Secondly, it's not the only milestone that we have to achieve, and that there is a stepped process until we get there and we are ready to comply with this regulation. So this is the CRA, the Cyber Resilience Act, and as we said, this is what it's trying to do. It tries to put in rules for making available on the market products with digital elements, to make sure that specific requirements are applied for the products that fit this category. When we talk about making this digital products, these products secure, it means that they have to adhere to essential cybersecurity requirements that would start from the design and the development, the production, and of course the support of these products from the part of the manufacturers. Amongst the essential requirements, if we can say that, is also vulnerability handling. So that means that vulnerability handling processes have to be put in place by manufacturers to ensure the cybersecurity of the products. And because it's a regulation and it brings mandate in requirements to the interested parties, to the manufacturers and other economic operators that are affected by the CRA. This means that it has to be surveyed also by somebody, and this is where requirements come for a market surveillance authority that will do the monitoring and the enforcement of the rules and the requirements. So this is what the CRA is trying to do, and that brings us to the basic thing is, can you tell me what Whoops, what the term or product with digital elements means to you. And that means that can you provide examples? And I have also another slide that makes it more concrete and has specific example, but I would like to have your options here, your own words here. And if I see something that we are not covering by default, then I can get to answer it during the questions. Whatever you say here is not considered advertisement, so you can put also the names of applications or products or whatever you think would help us understand or help you express your understanding of the term product with digital elements. So I'm going to give you a moment here so that you can put some, but I like where this is going. So we can see some web apps, we can see software developer company, information communication devices, any product, IoTs, Internet of Things, digital services, that's interesting, web services again, anything that connects to the internet. Yeah, that's very interesting. When I used to be part of an IT department back in the old days, they used to tell me that anything that has a screen and connects to the power is actually the business of IT. That was my poor attempt for humor. But I like where this is going. So any digital product like video and PDFs. Okay, maybe we should explain that. Maybe we can explain that in the afterwards. So hardware and software, smart glasses, SOC services. So I see a lot of things, firewalls. So we are definitely on a good track, and it seems that you have a good understanding. At least the 17 of you that have replied to this question have a great understanding what is a product with digital elements. But I'm afraid that some of the examples you have given are not correct and currently are not in the scope of the CRA. Let's see if we can narrow it down. So going to the next slide, you have a quiz where there are some different questions and some different examples, and then you can tell us, you can select which you believe is correct, and then hopefully the technology will that is definitely not working correctly. Now it's working correctly. And you get to select which from a predefined list now. So of course, these are the examples that you have now in the screen are specifically picked so that we can narrow down some of the cases and provide some more information depending on the categories. Almost all the examples that I showed in the previous slide are actually covered in this. So there are a lot of options. Some are funny, or at least I thought it was funny. And some are exceptions, so you shouldn't click them. And some are not covered from the examples that you showed, and I will discuss about them in the end during Q&A. So we have different things now. We have software that could be identified as an accounting software, a mobile gaming app, a software firewall. I did see an example of a firewall before. So a lot of examples, and these are your replies. So a software, an accounting software, a software firewall, an MRI. So this is a magnetic resonance imaging device. It's something that is located in hospitals, and they use it to see inside your body. I'm sorry, my knowledge goes up to that, to medical stuff. A car with smart features. So you have selected a great many of them, so there's a great distribution. A mathematical calculator is not on your choices, neither is a dress, neither is a hair dryer, so that's good. At least you avoided the very obvious parts. But unfortunately, I have to tell you that some of the things that you selected are not included in the CRA. So let's go and see the actual cases. The actual cases say that products with digital elements are either software or hardware, and its remote data processing solutions that could be either sold in the market as a whole or as components. And then we have the exceptions and the specifics. So anything that is a product that is a software that is able to have a data or a network connection during use. So I like when you provided the examples, you were saying that we can have anything that is connected. Yes, it's something like this. So anything that is able to have a data or a network connection during use, then it's a product with the digital elements, either a software or a hardware. Examples of that are accounting software, mobile gaming apps, software firewalls, security information and event management, the very famous CM applications, and hardware like smartphones and laptops and home cameras and smartwatches and connected toys. There was a toy in the list also, but also anything else that could usually be used by an organization when they are building their network or they are implementing their controls. So, and a hardware product requiring a direct or indirect logical or physical data connection to a device or a network. And this comes to the example that you provided, that ICS, that industrial control systems, could be identified as product with digital elements. So, very well done. Let's see now what is not within the CRA. Any medical devices. Medical devices fall under different regulation of the European Union. There is a strict framework. There is a guideline regarding cybersecurity. So any medical device is not within the CRA. That doesn't include personal wearable products, the smartwatches or other things that you can put on a human body that have an ability for human monitoring that go to products with digital elements, but medical devices are not there. The same applies for in vitro diagnostic medical devices. So again, they're regulated by another European regulation, and so anything that is used as and takes part in the in the process that has to do with the in vitro examination of specimens, then it is not covered by the CRA. Motor vehicles and their trailers and systems are also not included. There are specific categories of vehicles. Again, there is a regulation of the European Union, and if you want and believe that your product is under that, then you need to go and look it up because it mandates different things. Other things are things that come from the airspace area. So anything that is a part or a program or an equipment to control aircrafts remotely also are covered by another regulation. The only thing that is included in other things are the ones that are written here in purple. So not aircraft and their engines, propellers, part or not installed environment that control aircraft remotely while carrying out military, customs, police, search and rescue, firefighting, border control and coast guard or similar activities, which is a whole different category. And the list goes on with things that are not within the CRA. So that means anything that is to be placed on board ships or spare parts of products with digital elements that have the same specifications as their original construct and product, and products that are used or modified exclusively for national security or defense purposes. You already know that we have, in many of the regulations within the European Union, we have the exclusion for national security and defense purposes. Then we have websites and cloud services, which I know would be kind of a surprise to some of you because I saw it in the example. The cloud services are not included, and the only thing that would be included are the parts of the websites that support a functionality of a product. Otherwise, a cloud service is not part of the CRA. And last but not least, are the products that qualify as free and open source software that are not monetized by the manufacturers. Especially for the open source software, there is a very, very big debate. There are requirements, and we all know that a lot of products with digital elements that will fall under the scope of this regulation will have requirements will have components that are open source software, and still there is a way to deal with that. But this is the exception, only talks about products that are open source and are not monetized by their manufacturers, so they're freely given. So I know I have talked a lot. I've said a lot of examples and a lot of little details, and I will be available at the end at the Q&A if you have further questions. But let's say that we have derived that our product is indeed a product with digital elements that falls under the requirements there, the scope of the CRA. Then the next question would be, and now we are in this, what do we suppose, what are we required to do? So my question is, what do you believe should be ensured for every product with digital elements before it's released to the market? What should you do as manufacturers? What should we have as a given, as a guarantee, that before we place it to the market? So in many years before, we used to say that there is no requirement. Every manufacturer could put something in the product, and sometimes we also jokingly, maybe, said that the beta testing was done by the user. So we did not expect a lot of things security-wise from the manufacturer, and we were content to be testing the product for them after it was placed in the market. So you say that a product should be free of vulnerabilities. There should be compliance to security requirements. Security by design should be followed. Customer data should be protected. Data should have integrity, and the application should have integrity, from what I understand. So the good thing is that you believe that there should be requirements that should be applied to a product before it's being released to the market. And you are in the correct way, saying that it has to do with vulnerabilities, but not just with vulnerabilities. It has to do also with things that you have to do by design when you are designing, developing the product with digital elements, to make sure that it has a minimum level of resilience and robustness in terms of security before it's placed to the market. So the fact is that based on the CRA, there should be the products the products with digital elements should meet essential requirements. There is a whole Annex 1, that say what are the the requirements first of all, and we will see a slide afterwards, but it's very, very small font, so maybe you will see it offline. But first of all, the first requirement is vulnerability management, and actually it says that it should not have any active open vulnerabilities when it's placed on the market, but it doesn't stop there. It goes on and discusses and introduces a number of requirements and cybersecurity controls that should be applied. And also, it's not enough that the manufacturer applies these requirements, but it's important that they have to check also that they comply with these essential requirements. It's not just, it's like Caesar's wife. It's not enough to just say that they are good. It's that they comply. They have to prove it also. Um, so let's narrow it down. Which of the following do you believe are activities that should be carried out to see whether we can pinpoint a little bit the requirements for products with digital elements after this introduction? So you have different options here, and I'm happy to see the vulnerability management is there. Okay, maybe I gave you a clue or two before in the previous slides, maybe. But I can see also that you are putting also other questions. So other answers, for example, the top answers are vulnerability management, risk assessment, and penetration testing. Um, they're fluctuating the results. Maybe I give you a minute. So we have some options here. Some of them are control related. Some of them have to do, like certification is about making sure that you comply. Implementing an ISMS based on ISO 27001 is something that the manufacturer could implement in order to prepare the organization and run a system, which means a number of processes and policies and activities in an organized and coherent manner. And then we have the answers that relate to accessibility, web accessibility, to having the application be able to be easily and based on the regulations and standards be accessible from the internet for all interested parties, and cost optimization, which none of you selected. Uh, um, so let's see what the answers are. So you are, of course, correct that within the essential cybersecurity requirements, the first one is that the product should be placed in the market without any known exploitable vulnerabilities. So that is not as simple as it sounds. It is not having no vulnerabilities. It's not something that happens by chance. Oh, I created a product and whoa, by mistake I didn't have, and by luck I didn't have any vulnerabilities. No, it means that there is a tight process, there are some specific principles that are being followed, and there are iterations during the and tests during the development process and the design and the development in order to have a product like that. So it's a conscious effort to have a product with non-known exploitable vulnerabilities. Security by design that you already wrote is there. It should have by design security incorporated in the requirements and in the actual implementation, and it should have some the ability to have a secure by default configuration. So that means that whenever it is provided to the market, it starts with a configuration that it is secure by default, and then the user would go and make changes based on their needs. It should have the ability to remedy any open vulnerability through security updates. I know it may sound a little bit silly right now, but I remember the old days, and sometimes we didn't have an interface or a way that we could update a product, especially in the industrial area, on because of security for security issues. It should be protected from unauthorized access. It should protect the confidentiality of stored, transmitting, and otherwise processed data, either at rest or in transit. It should protect the integrity of stored, transmitted, or otherwise processed data. It should only process the data, personal data, that are actually related to what it's trying to do. So this is the famous data minimization principle that we saw when we were dealing with the GDPR some years ago. It should have it should protect the availability of essential and basic functions. It should minimize the negative impact that could be could happen to the organization or the system by things happening, by bad things happening to the product. It should have a limited attack surface, so it should be designed to have as much to minimize this attack surface and to reduce the impact of an incident, to provide security related information by implementing monitoring, recording, and logging activities to the extent that is necessary to fulfill the requirements and the intended use of the product. And it should allow users to securely and easily remove on a permanent basis all data and settings. So that means that you put the data in, and there should be a way that people could get that data out securely, and this could be transferred to somewhere else, to another similar device, for example. So it's a lot, I know, but it is essential that these are the exactly minimum requirements that should be applied, following, of course, a risk assessment that takes into consideration also what the product is and what is the intended use and the environment and so on and so forth. As we go and reach the end of the presentation, let's just wrap it up a little bit on what you as SMEs should be doing. What do you believe SMEs should be doing? Do you believe that SMEs are affected or not affected? Is there a special clause? Do you believe that it says that SMEs, because of the limited capacity maybe, or the limited budget, should not be applying or be in scope of the CRA, or that there should be something else that is a lighter version of the CRA? I know it was a lot of questions, but I would appreciate your inputs in this. It's really interesting for me to see your point of view as SMEs regarding this. And of course, if it's relevant to you, and especially if your products incorporate AI elements. Oops, sorry about that. Trying to go to the rest to see if somebody answered. So you do not believe that there should be an SME fit version of the CRA. That's interesting. Like, I was kind of thinking that most SMEs, we go and say, yeah, we know it's important, but we have this a lot of constraints when you compare us to large organizations and big tech giants, and we should have a lighter vision also of the requirements. So, unfortunately, you are correct. Even SMEs, irrespective of the the size of the organization. If they have products with digital elements, they should apply the requirements. There have been some activities amongst which is this webinar in order to provide skills to help organizations identify and understand if they are within scope or what are their requirements. But in the end, the requirements are the requirements, and there will be some instruments to help SMEs, but the main thing is that they still have to abide with all the requirements. So as I said, we are finishing up. And the last things that I wanted to say is that the CRA actually affects not just the manufacturers, but also affects other type of what the CRA calls economic operators, which is the authorized representatives, the importers and the distributors. And depending on where you belong into this area and the type of economic operator you are, then you may have a different responsibilities. Of course, the major part is to the manufacturer because they get to design, develop, and originally test the product with digital elements. But there are requirements, and you can read it up within the CRA for also other economic operators that are included in the CRA. The CRA identifies products with digital elements and splits them into 3 categories. The first one is important products with digital elements. Then the second one would be critical products with digital elements. And then we have the default class. The reason why there is this differentiation between the classes or the categories of products is because they are considered to have a different criticality, and the effect of bad thing happening to or through these products could be different based on the category where they belong. Based on this category, and you can see here some examples, based on this categorization, the CRA mandates a different way that the requirements are checked. And they range from the organization, the manufacturing, checking by themselves a self-assessment whether they comply with the requirements. And then we have in class 1, which is the important products with digital elements, we have requirements for either third-party assessment or compliance with the harmonized standard. And then we have the critical products, which is definitely and only a certification by a third party, so only third-party assessment. So there are a lot of things that can be said about assessment, and there's a very interesting material for anybody that would be interesting on that part. And there are a series of webinars from ENISA on the interplay between the CRA and the UCC for anyone that wants to look at this. So we have the different categories, we have the different products, and this is the final countdown to the requirements and to the different stages, and that will lead us to 2027 when all products and digital elements should be compliant. And you can see it in the slides when we distribute it, and you will see that we have several steps that need to be implemented. We are still waiting for the horizontal and vertical standards to be issued, but organizations should report vulnerabilities and security incidents from September 2026, which is the first very important milestone that you should be aware of. And then we have also different things until we get to 2027. So I would like to thank you for your patience and your participation. I'm really sorry that it took a little bit more, Esther. Sorry for taking a little bit more, but I give back the floor to Esther.
Yeah, thank you, Iro, for this insightful and practical overview of the Cyber Resilience Act. Now let's see some examples about how the current project translates these CRA requirements into actionable solutions. And this is an overview of our dashboard. it provides a centralized view of our suite of cybersecurity tools. These are designed to simplify the CRA compliance. You've seen it's very complex, so this tool is here to help you. There are modules for self-assessment, code review, risk mitigation, all of them tailored to SME's needs. And hopefully all this is already familiar to you after Iro's explanation. So if you go to the next slide, please, Sidesh, let's connect a bit the dots. Iro has been talking about the products with digital elements. So, well, Curion has one of the tools of the Curion identifies whether a product with digital elements falls within the scope of the CRA. In the next slide, we will see, for example, about the cyber security risk assessment. We have two different tools that help with this, assessing cybersecurity risk, or offering a structural risk mitigation framework. In the next slide, we will see about different obligations of the manufacturers, like identify and document vulnerabilities, or address or remediate vulnerabilities without delay. They should apply effective and regular tests and reviews of the security of the product, or they should share and publicly disclose information about fixed vulnerabilities. And for that, we have a tool in Curium that equips users with vulnerability assessment, code review, and penetration testing. If you go to the next one. Yeah, this is the obligation that manufacturers shall provide a copy of the EU Declaration of Conformity. And for that, we have the Conformity Assessment and Compliance tool, providing a guided approach to the technical documentation and self-gap analysis. So, next one, please. Yeah. Everything you've heard today is designed to support you. If you are ready to explore the CRA compliance, Curium is here to help. So I'm encouraging you to join our training and validation activities. Our cybersecurity experts in the project will guide you through the platform, offering hands-on support and building together the knowledge needed to meet all these deadlines that you have just seen. So you can sign up today using this QR. Also follow us in our social media channels and subscribe to our newsletter. And thank you very much. This is all from my side and from the Curion project. Back to you, Sidesh, guess. You're muted, Sidesh.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you so much, Esther, Iro, and Asia as well. It was truly an insightful presentation. Our special thanks, especially to Iro, for such a detailed presentation. I think it was definitely helpful for all of our participants as well to know more about the CRA as well. Hearing through the presentation as well, I believe it also brought up some questions as well when you were going through the slides as well. And something that came to my mind, Iro, is I'm wondering if, we understood how the CRA needs to be implemented, but what are the potential penalties for non-compliance with the CRA, and how can SMEs prioritize their efforts to avoid them?
Okay. Usually I am not, I do not like penalties. I think nobody likes penalties because it should be something that we think about security without thinking about, it's like the carrot and the stick. I try not to think about the stick, but of course, when the CRA comes into play, there will be mandatory implementation. It should be mandatory implementation. We talked about at the beginning there was a slide that was talking about the four objectives that related to the CRA, and one of them had to do with the supervisory authority and the market surveillance authority, and of course, based on their ruling, and because it is a European regulation, there could be penalties. So member states should um, draw up their own policies regarding the penalties, and there is something that is included in the CRA which says, apart from whatever local member state authorities may decide to implement in the CRA, it says that non-compliance to the requirements of the essential requirements that I showed you in the slide with the essential requirements, it could have fines up to 15 million euros, or if it's a company, then it would be 2.5, I think, up to 2.5 of the total worldwide annual turnover for the previous year, or whichever is higher. So it's quite big.
Okay.
We have been introduced to big penalties ever since 2028 with the GDPR, and I think we will have also here.
Yep. Excellent. Thanks for sharing that you're with us. I think there's a question in the chat which also ties into one of the questions that I had is many SMEs also use open source software. So how does the CRA affect its integration?
Okay, so the open source is a very big business. It's a very big thing. Of course, as I said, open source products that are manufactured and are not sold. They are not monetized by the manufacturers, are outside the scope of the CRA. But we all know that we can have products that have libraries that are open source, or parts, or even functional parts that are open source. In that case, they are still the CRA still applies, and although you may have an open source component, that doesn't mean that your product is exempted from the CRA. We expect actually to have some more guidance regarding open source and how it should be understood and how it should apply and take a part in the compliance to the CRA. And there is a role within the CRA that is called the steward, open source steward, if I'm saying it correctly. The steward, I remember the first part not so much, which is definitely something that will help in the implementation of the requirements. It's still an open issue, and there's a lot of discussion with the open communities regarding the requirements of the CRA.
All right. We have another question from the chat. It's from one of our participants. It says, is there a difference in rules when it involves AI products?
No, actually, there is one part within the CRA that says that when you have a product with digital elements and it incorporates an AI implementation or a module or functionality that is classified under the AI Act as high risk, then it should be it is also covered also from the point of view of this regulation. So even if you have a product that incorporates AI, it doesn't mean that it's exempted from the CRA. And
Okay.
that would also, I think, with the if we take the question with the open source and we take the question with the AI, we have two very basic things that happen in almost all software or hardware, and they are going to and differentiating and deciding how exactly the requirements apply is going to be something that will take a lot of guidance in the next years.
Got it. We have some interesting questions coming through as well in the chat. We have one that says, A software platform which is not a direct product, meaning it's not sold as a product, but instead it is a platform application only available to customers of an existing service, is it still subject to CRA?
Okay, that's really interesting because I had thought when I asked you to provide some answers regarding what is the examples of products with digital elements. I had also another. I saw that there was a service included. So if it's a service like I'm offering you incident response as a service, and it's a service, then it's definitely not within the CRA. If it's a cloud service, it's not connected with the functionality of a product, then again, it's not part of the CRA. And maybe what you should be considering is the European Cybersecurity Act and the certification under of cloud services under the UCS when it comes, or the managed service security service providers when that certification comes in. So if we are providing a service, then it's probably outside of the scope, but it always depends on what you say service, because a lot of the times we see just the software being provided as a service, but then the software as a product, it would be a product with digital elements. So it's not a very clear answer what I gave, but I think it depends on what you had in mind.
Yep, thank you, Iro. I think we have time for maybe two more questions, if it's okay. I wanted to know, I mean, it was very informative to learn about the CRA as well. So let's say for an SME who's just starting out with the CRA compliance, what is the first step that they can take over here?
The first step of compliance, first of all, identify that you are in scope. So I think all of the standards that have to be that talk about management systems, for example, the first step is always know yourself or know your company or the context of the organization. So the first thing is that you have to identify whether your product, and I'm seeing also a question in the chat where it asks if CRA compliance is about a product or a legal entity. The answer is the product with digital elements. So that has to be compliant, but the product has to be compliant. The manufacturer has to apply processes in order to make sure that the requirements are incorporated within the design of the product, and that the test and whatever is required based for the assessment of the product are also fulfilled. So definitely the product, but SME should start first by saying, okay, this is what I do. These are my products. This is what they are trying to do. Let's see if some or all of none of them are within scope. So first take things first that.
Hmm. Thank you, Euro. One last question, and then we're all gonna go over for lunch break then. So as an SME, how can we know if we can self-certify or if we need to look for a third-party certification body? And what steps should we take when it comes to choosing such a third-party certification for CRA compliance?
Great. It is actually very much connected to the previous question. So as a next step from the previous question, so the first thing is that I identify whether I'm in scope or not. And then there was this slide that I said that we have three categories, and we have the default class, which we believe it would probably encompass more than 90% of the existing products with digital elements. And then we have the critical and the important. Depending on the type or the category that your product belongs, it has different requirements regarding the assessment and the monitoring of compliance. So if you are in the supercritical activities, so we are talking about smart boxes and or you are then you're definitely on the third party part. If you have a password manager, then you will have a distinction. I think password managers belong to class A. I can quickly check. Maybe it was a wrong example, but yeah, password managers are important products. So if you have a password manager, then you have the ability to either select harmonized standards. They're not out yet, Or you can go for a third-party certification. Everybody else can do a self-assessment.
Got it. Thank you. We do have one last question in the chat, if that's okay. There's a question that says, what if the software providers uses services from the big five companies, the SME SP, what should do for compliance? Is the primary SP will be accepted by default?
So let me see if I understand this correctly, and you can correct me. Let's say I have a product and I base it on an existing product. So I take an existing project and I build on top of it. This is what I understand from this question,
I
right?
also understand the same from that question, unless the participant wants to clarify more. Yeah,
Correct.
that is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So then we come to something that is called composition. That's also a very interesting and very big topic that is happening right now, which means that you have a composite system or a composite product that it has different components, one of which comes from a different organization, and the others maybe you have created by yourself, or you have bought also from other organizations. And there are specific guidelines regarding composition and how this should be treated. In the end, just to cut the story short, because there is a lot of information, you can go in the ANISA site for the certification and see the guidelines regarding the UCC on composition. But the main thing is that although your product is incorporating something else, you should adhere to the requirements. So that's the end goal. So it doesn't matter if you did it by yourself or you built on top of somebody else. The goal should be that you should have a secure product. How that works within compositions, it's a little bit tricky, but it can happen. So you can be either based on the results of the security, or you can run them yourselves. But it's interesting, and you should look it up if you're building something on top of another.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much, Iro, for your time. Truly, truly insightful presentation. And thanks for also taking the time to answer to the questions from the participants. On behalf of EIT Digital, I would like to extend our thanks to you, Iro. On behalf of EIT Digital, the project's SME for DD and Curium, we would also like to thank all the participants for being here with us. We truly hope you found the presentation insightful. We welcome you to stay in touch with us for further workshops and webinars. We will share a follow-up email with all the necessary details to stay in touch with the projects. I see that there was some interest in the chat also to know more, which is just great. So thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. Have a great lunch break, and we hope to see you all next time.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.